And we will take a roll.
Where do all these glasses come from? It's right.
Yeah, they're still chatting, so I don't know where Joanna is.
I won't turn it on. When they close those, you won't be staring out of the darkness here. You visible to them. I better stay out of it.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I better still there, stay out of your hand.
That's a thought. That's a thought.
I had them come in.
Can you hear us now? Your speaker on.
No, this is what they did last time. I think it's fine. Turn that one out.
Right now.
That's 1, 2, 3.
Can you hear us now? Okay, we're getting yes.
Just muted that.
Oh, and I did something here too. Who knows which one? We'll just-
Yes.
So I'll
Much better.
I'll start
This-
over.
Okay, yeah, much better.
Okay, so the speed study came in late last week from Novo Global. They're the company that we're looking at for replacing our current automated traffic enforcement cameras. I'll just start into it here, for the sake of, so we don't hold you people here longer than we need to tonight. Maybe. You know, you,
Literally tested it out.
I've converted it so it will work.
oh, wait, what is the next? This is the problem. Did you put it all on one PDF with the cover sheet and the speed study? Okay.
No, if it's a PDF, it's not.
No, no,
It's a
this
PDF.
should not be a PDF. This should be, you had to hit, remember you hit slideshow. So it is a PowerPoint. Next one.
Yeah, the next one, there's a blank sheet.
Okay, next
All right. So essentially what the speed study was for 7 locations for the actual cameras that take speed. We had data already for the red light camera systems in the city of Lakewood, and all of them were feasible for the switch over to Novo Global. In other words, there was enough activity at the intersections to justify putting cameras in based on the existing data that we were getting from Redflex. So Novo Global came in and put in temporary camera systems at Wards Lake Park, Fort Silicon Park, St. Clair Hospital. I requested 2 locations at Clover Park High School. They did a week-long study on 112th Street on the school zone and also on the Gravel Lake side. And then also they did a separate speed study at Park Lodge Elementary and Lockburn Middle School. To wrap up, basically the summary of the speeding at these different locations with one word, we have a profound speeding issue in the city of Lakewood. All of the data that came in basically more than justified putting camera systems in all of these different locations. The problem is going to be is that we can't do that at Clover Park High School. We can't put 2 systems in. So the data was looked at, and this is for the parks actually. If you'll notice, the total volumes are pretty high on the corridors. For Wards Lake Park on 84th Street, we did eastbound and westbound. The traffic volumes are pretty high, and the speeding was obviously pretty profound. Of note, the camera systems for the speed study only took speeding that was 11 miles an hour and over, and then 22 miles an hour and over. The systems themselves, when we put them in, are going to be set to a much lower standard, but they do a very conservative study to make sure that they get enough data to justify violations to pay for the systems themselves. So just with the 46 miles per hour and over and 55 miles an hour and over, both Fort Silicon Park and Wards Lake Park for those two particular locations had more than enough volume and violations to justify systems. The location at Fort Silicon Park would be roughly the 87th Avenue corridor right there at Fort Silicon Park at the entrance. And it would run basically, the beginning of the speed zone would have to be within 300 feet of the border of the park. So it would run from basically 87th Avenue down to the entrance of Western State Hospital, roughly right there. So this will make sense when I break it into the school zones. You'll kind of see the pie chart or the graph that they did for this. But this one is, I believe, it's covered up there.
It's St. Clair Hospital.
St. Clair Hospital, that's the other zone that we're looking at adding. The legislature changed the laws so that we can add park zones and hospital zones. St. Clair Hospital, they put out pucks to check the speed at the 1200 block, basically at 112th Street at Bridgeport for both northbound and southbound. The traffic coming northbound basically was captured, and there's a lot more volume coming northbound, a lot more violations. But again, the speeding through there is pretty profound, as you can see from the amount of violations that came in at 11 and 22 miles an hour over. Yeah, I can't,
Sorry.
something happened here. I can't.
I was trying to get that out of your way so I can get you to take control again.
Can you move it to the next slide? Is that easier to do?
Let's see.
So Clover Park High School, this is the 112th Street side. This is again just taking violations for the period of time when the beacons are flashing for the school zones. There was surprisingly there was quite a bit of speeding on that stretch, even though it's a 2-lane road in each direction. We were kind of not sure what we were going to get with that in regards to the stats. That alone would be more than enough to justify a system on 112th Street. However, Gravelly Lake, it pretty much, well, it was the highest producing school speed zone out of all 3 schools, which was surprising. The representative, when she came down, she really doubted whether or not the Gravelly Lake side, due to the fact that the lights are so close together and there's another system at Park Lodge, whether there was going to be enough speeding to justify it. And actually this zone had the most out of all of them, and fairly high speeds to boot, but the volume is significantly higher than 112th. We were kind of curious as to 112th with the alternative school that just opened up down at the old station, police station, whether or not that was going to be another factor to justify putting in a system there. But really, when you look at when we're all done here, when you look at the amount of volume at the different school zones, it really is going to be suggested that we put in a system at Gravelly Lake at Clover Park High School. Park Lodge continues to be active enough to justify a system, as does Lockburn right up the street here on Silicon Boulevard. And I don't expect anybody to really kind of be able to take a look at these numbers and really make much sense of it, other than the fact that the recorded high speeds on the very far right-hand column, those are all when the speeds are supposed to be at 20 miles an hour. So you're getting speeds of 50, 48, 45, 46 pretty consistently, which are pretty serious violations for school zone. This is the graph I was talking about for the different school zones. You can see all the schools are pretty similar except for Clover Park High School at Gravelly Lake Drive. The volumes of traffic through there and the speeding was significantly more than the other schools. And of note, that is with only 4 days of traffic samples from Gravelly Lake, Clover Park High School at Gravelly Lake Drive. The rest of the schools had 5-day samples. So it's significantly higher. The next part of this is just expected amount of violations you can expect based upon these numbers for Wards Lake Park, Fort Silicon Park, and St. Clair Hospital on a weekly, monthly, and annual basis. All those numbers are going to come down over time. Once we start actually having violations, all these numbers are going to come down as people start to comply with the numbers. Yes.
We're going to do a second study to actually confirm that hypothesis.
No, we're not going to do another study. By RCW, we have to do a speed study at any proposed location before we can put an actual system in. And there was enough traffic on these particular 4 and 5 days. We made sure it was not an anomaly, so that it wasn't a particularly busy week because there was a school event or a concert or something else going on. It was just a random 4-day, 5-day period. We did have one day that ended up accidentally being a snow day, where school was out. So we had to factor that particular day out, which is why Clover Park High School only has a 4-day sample.
So how do you know then, how are you going to confirm that speeds are actually coming under control?
As far, this is just based upon, other agencies and our own experience with Redflex. When you do a speed study and you don't have the flashers out and things like that, the speeds come down over time after the actual enforcement starts at any given new location. This is essentially these violations that they're documenting here are at speed zones that are already active and flashing. They just put their system over the top of, at Park Lodge and Lockford in particular, they put their systems over the top of the existing Redflex systems. So these are violations that in essence, we're also capturing on Redflex. So really, there's more than enough data here based upon the speed violations we're talking about here, 11 and 22 over, to say that we're going to get enough violations at 6 over to pay for the systems. And that's what they're mainly concerned about, is slowing down the speeds and then have the system basically pay for itself for the camera systems out of the violations that come in. So there's no requirement that we do a second study to justify it. The speed study itself just needs to be have a representative time sample to show that it is going to be feasible, and we're not putting it out in the middle of nowhere where it's not going to be feasible or work for any particular school.
And once it starts issuing tickets, you'll see from the ticket data itself, you'll know how many violations there are in that.
Well, that was my next question is, what percentage of people actually pay the fines?
I don't have that data. There's a portion of people that don't, and actually in the legislature currently, there's a proposal in the current law for any jurisdiction to be able to factor in people's ability to pay. And if they don't have the ability to pay, an agency can come up with a plan on how to factor that into the violations. But currently, if they can't pay or they don't pay, eventually it goes to collections. So, but I don't have the data as to how many don't pay. Yes.
Two questions. On that last point, seems to me like the population that can't pay, it still hurts the kid in the crosswalk who gets run over by a speeding car. I get amazed by these dichotomies. So you take this class and say they're unable to pay for whatever criteria you established. But anybody gets hit in that crosswalk, it's going to hurt the same.
Correct. And then when I say that, it's just right now it's proposed in the legislature. I don't know if that's going to be enacted or not, but right now, if they don't pay, it goes to collections. But I would say for the most part, people pay the fine. Plus in Lakewood, the fine amounts haven't been raised since the inception of the program. One of the things that we're looking at too is with implementation of this, we're going to be looking to update the fine amounts to be more reflective of other agencies in the area and the current fine amounts for speeding.
So you start off by saying the sampling is being done to determine if it's economically sustainable to pay for the equipment.
Correct. Right.
The goal is to get compliance and a whole lot less violations. Is that number so low that no matter how far it falls, it'll still pay for the cameras? You put yourself out of business.
No, that's not going to happen. I'm hesitant to put it this way, but based upon what we saw here with these numbers, this representative that comes in and does this all up and down the West Coast, down in the central United States. She said we don't see these kind of numbers generally ever, unless it's a huge geographical area, someplace like Los Angeles, Phoenix. But even then, you don't see these kind of numbers. We have a profound speeding problem in Lakewood, and even if these numbers, even if we were to set it this high, it would still pay the cameras. The goal here is to get people to slow down, ultimately, and it's for the safety of the students. And another reason why we would put a camera system on Gravel Lake Drive is because most of the foot traffic into the school comes in on that side, not on the car side where the students driving in. So the goal here is to get people to slow down so people don't get run over in a crosswalk on the sidewalk. But the company itself won't come in and put a camera system in unless it can pay for itself, because ultimately in the end, when we wrap up this system, any unpaid bills just go away. We're not on the hook to necessarily have the city of Lakewood pay Novoa Global when we break contract with them or when we're finally done. Anything that's out in collections and collections would come in, but basically they sunset it. When we're done, we're done. And so they don't want anything unpaid out there. They won't come in and put a camera system in unless it's feasible. So that's the feasibility here in terms of the tickets and numbers here. I've been reassured that's not gonna be an issue. And again, we have systems in place in most of these already. We're just looking at replacing the camera systems in, at the schools and adding Clover Park High School. And the cameras are already feasible. The fees are roughly the same.
And the cameras already paid for themselves here?
Yes,
The current ones already have.
yes.
What happens with the excess or
The extra money goes into the city of Lakewood. Currently, we don't have revenue sharing, any revenue sharing cameras with the state. That's a new thing. But the money comes into the city. I can't speak to what account it goes into, but I believe it's for, I believe the new law says it has to be used for traffic safety. I'm not sure what the current law says in regards to the automated traffic camera systems, but I'm fairly certain we're going to the general fund. Yes.
So at Lockburn, they've already got a system there. If you put this system in, the numbers are probably gonna be about the same.
Well, the other part with this system is that it's a newer system. It's in the agencies in the area that already had systems that converted over to Navoa Global because of the changes in the technology and the newer camera systems. They're seeing better and more violations through those systems. The systems that we have, the cameras that we have are old. It's older technology. This newer technology is better. The software is better. The other thing that we have too is there's a proprietary algorithm in the new camera systems with Navoa Global to where we can put out more cameras and we can fine tune it so that we get the most egregious violations from those cameras and not necessarily get inundated with every violation 6 and over. So we also have to keep in mind that we have staff here that have to be able to get through all those. We have one person here at the PD that goes through these violations every day. We have to make sure that we don't inundate him and overwork him to the point where he can't keep up with the court with these tickets that come in. So they have an algorithm that they can program so that even though it's capturing violations that particular day for 6 and over, that person that's going seven over, it gets a photo of them that particular day. If there's enough violations, that person's probably not going to get an actual violation if the algorithm is sending us the people that violated 9, 10, and 11 over, and it meets the need that we have. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So we're actually adding, right now we have 4 functional systems with Redflex. We're going up to 8. And we need to fine tune it so that we can have the systems pay for themselves, contribute to traffic safety, and then not overburden the court staff and the PD staff here with too many tickets coming in because of the threshold that we set.
Question about paying for itself.
Yep.
That only includes the operational system, doesn't include the person that's actually working it and drawing the data and doing the.
Right now, that's a position that is currently funded by the police department and the courts. So, but in the current legislative session, there's a bill in place so that the revenues that we get from this system can also go to pay for the staffing costs for the back office and for the employees to work the system. Yes.
This is kind of another version of Mark's question, but if Redflex has been there all this time, did it lower speeding? Do we have some results and we expect better results from this system or just more?
Over time, I think I don't have the data on how much it's lowered the speeding. I would say it's helped, but over time, the technology has become dated to the point where there's newer technology out there that's more efficient. And I'll just say that part of the reason we're going away from Redflex is because of problems with the back office and the technical support that we were getting. And there were a lot of problems with the product we were getting from them, with either being the wrong lane of travel on the photo, the wrong vehicle, to where we can't process the ticket in court. And we were having a lot of problems with the quality control from the business. That was part of the reason we chose to go away from them. Navoa Global, and when you talk to people from DuPont and the city of Tacoma, they're much happier with those systems than with their prior providers, which most of them were from Redflex. So, moving forward, that was essentially it for the speed study. Really, the key takeaway is this is required that we come in and we do this in order to, as part of the legislative laws, we have to do a speed study before we put a proposal, before we put a camera in any one location. In addition to, there's other requirements that we put out warning signage if we're going to put a new system in. There's gonna have to be a period of time for people to know there's gonna be a system there and to comply with the speed requirements before we actually implement tickets. So there's gonna be a public, announcement, going out through our media, that there's new locations going in. The proposal is gonna be that we put in the 2 park systems one for Wards Lake Park, Fort Silicon Park, the hospital zone at St. Clair, and then the 3 school zones, and then the 2 existing red light camera systems that we do have that are functional. So we're gonna be up to 8 functional locations with 16 cameras. Because each location of the parks, and school zone, there's a camera for each direction that road goes. So, but the requirement is that we do this in order to make sure that we satisfy the RCW and to show that we can actually improve the safety along that roadway.
The 2 red light cameras at the end of Phillips Road and at Flagpole.
So Phillips Road, that system went down last year, and we're not proposing that we put one back in there. We are moving that, essentially, the enforcement for that corridor is gonna move down to the park system, down at Fort Silicon Park to try to slow the traffic through that corridor with the park system through there. And then the other red light systems that we're leaving are 512 at South Comaway, capturing northbound and southbound at South Comaway. And then, Bridgeport Way and San Francisco, down capturing north and southbound Bridgeport Way at San Francisco down there in Springbrook. Yes, sir.
If the software on the new system is good enough, so it will count cars for you and catalog speeds, those cars, so system does every vehicle.
It only captures violations if they trigger violations.
Okay, so it doesn't capture anything and do a continuous speed study for you then.
All data, I think it's triggered by speed, and so it's not gonna capture vehicles that don't speed. But we'll be able to capture ongoing data about all violations if we want, even if our algorithm is set to where we're only gonna take the top 50% of the violations application, we're still gonna have the other violations captured to show maybe the, if you wanna call it the getaways, what we're letting go by. And then the argument would be then, if we increase staffing here and we have more ability to actually work more violations, we can open the spigot a little bit and we can take all violations from each location and not have to set the algorithm so high. But the goal here is not money making, it's to slow everybody down.
But it won't tell you how many vehicles go
Sure.
through there every day.
Total volume of traffic?
Yeah.
I don't know if it actually records anything about the vehicles that don't violate. The speed study does capture how many total vehicles. I'm not sure if the actual violation cameras they put in will do that. But I can find out, and I can let you know on that if you want.
It would just be interesting to know, is traffic volume staying constant in there? And
Well, the traffic volume, one thing we did discover is if you look at like, St. Clair Hospital, just on what was it, Monday? I think Monday was the 4th of October, or no, Wednesday. She set out this system to basically, the camera systems for the hospitals is 24/7 because the hospital zones can run 24/7 because the emergency room is open 24/7. But that's 10,935 vehicles total volume northbound on Wednesday. And similar traffic on Thursday, actually throughout the week. I had no idea there was that kind of volume every day through that corridor. But the school zones along Gravel Lake Drive are fairly similar because they're the main thoroughfares through the town. And really that's what we're looking at doing is trying to not only slow down the people that live here, but the people that are trying to use this as a cut through to get to University Place or the base or get to Spanaway because we're trying to cut through. So, yes.
For the school zones, are the cameras only gonna be active when the beacon's active?
Yeah, they can only be functional when the beacons are active during the actual school zone enforcement hours, and those calendars come out annually. And so the cameras are programmed ahead of time to only function during those hours. So these violations that we're picking up, there are these pucks that are set up in the speed study, it's only during the actual school zone hours. So, and then the park cameras are only open for the actual hours the park is open, from dawn to dusk. That's the only time that you're legally allowed to run the park camera systems. Yes,
Is the system integrated all of the block safety cameras, or are they included?
not yet. But there's talk that it will be, but that's not available yet. And again, just like every other camera system, there's not gonna be pictures of many people, it's just license plates, captured, on the actual photo. Very similar, and the law is very specific about what you can and can't do with the data. Anyway, the recommendation is gonna go to the chief and the city manager here fairly soon in regards to the eight locations, the 8 systems. And then it's just a matter of trying to coordinate with the vendor, the contracting and things like that. And we're not really sure yet when we're gonna be able to, have the systems installed. We need to give Red Flex 30 days notice to get their equipment and pull it. And then we can use the existing systems and put the Novo Global in on the existing systems that were left behind, if there is any. Otherwise, it'll be new construction for some of this. So not sure exactly. We're hoping by summertime, we can have the new systems in. Any other questions?
You said it was gonna be at South Tacoma Way and 512. Well, can that coexist with the traffic light cameras?
It's already there.
Is the traffic light?
Yeah, the red light camera system at 512 South Tacoma Way is already there. It's already functional up with the traffic light signals there. If you go drive by there, take a look at just as you're coming southbound from 100th Street towards 512 on South Tacoma Way on the right-hand side in front of the Eagle Leather. There's about a 10-foot tall pole on the shoulder on the sidewalk that has a gray metal box on it. I think it's gray. And a flashing light, and that's the system. And there's one on the exact opposite side for people that are coming northbound. Similar system is set up on the light system, or just next to light systems down at Bridgeport already. All right. Thank you.
Hello. Happy to see everybody here again for a couple of months. Just some quick updates. The community satisfaction survey went out to random members of our community, and we're hoping to get results back from that. And we're going to roll those results into our city council is going to be holding a retreat at the end of next month to focus on our priorities for 2025 and 2026. We're going to incorporate what we've heard from the survey, as well as any other feedback that we get. So feel free to reach out with any things that you think should be a high priority for us, and we'll make sure to improve them. The farmers markets are going to be starting up again here soon as we get towards summertime. And currently, people who are looking for a booth can sign up with the city. So if you know anybody who has a small business that wants to promote it, or you have other small businesses that you like to frequent, you can let them know to sign up. It's gotten bigger every year, and it's a lot of fun. So do that. We are continuing to push our state legislature on public safety issues, focus specifically on pursuit of stolen vehicles and juvenile crime. So we'll continue to focus on that and let them know that those are our top priorities and to not get off track, focus on just those things.
Are those still active or?
I'm not sure. Last of all, construction is continuing like 4 major projects, including Hipkins, the Ardmore Whitman interchange, and they're finishing up down on Union and Florida. With that, happy to answer any questions or bring questions back to council.
How did the 2 meetings go on the ADUs?
On the ADUs?
The last 2?
Yeah, so we'll have to talk to our community development department about that.
Give you an update, because I was there. The last, we just had one so far from the last meeting that happened at City Hall. We had one at the Lakewood Pavilion. Sorry, we had one at the Lakewood Pavilion, It went really well, better than last time. I think we had better, the questions that were asked at the last Westmoreland City Hall, we actually have answers for those, so a lot of about that. It's specifically to say, let's share that it's bringing this all down to us, that where it's not a requirement, ADU do not have to require to build an ADU on your property. It's now just the city now has to allow it. So I mean, it was really well, everybody good questions around just land density, what does that mean about the sewer and water? But it flowed really well, so no, it was not as dramatic as the first one.
I've heard a perspective on it recently that it can disproportionately affect some parts of our community more than others. So parts of our community that don't have HOAs or CMDRs are more subject to have to comply with it versus those that do are not. So more affluent areas of our city are potentially protected in some ways while others are not. So there is some potential pushback to the state for not being fair.
What's our legislation put in removing HOAs or community CCNRs out of the protected land?
Yeah, we are paying attention because they may push to not give them the exemptions they currently have.
I haven't heard anything, so I didn't know if there's some legislation go forward.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about it. There are rumors.
Next one on.
Twenty-eighth of March.
Okay.
Good.
That's our next town hall around 80.
About it's about the comp plan in general, but it's specifically around.
Westford Fire and Rescue.
We've been busy, but fortunately, there have been extraordinary, so, it's a good start to the year, so. Difficult fall from. The only thing I think we did have, was during the freeze, we had a lot of broken, a lot of sprinklers of so I think a lot of discussion as we approach the winter next year, some more public education on freeze protection and also fire sprinkler system maintenance. We over that weekend, that was really cold down into its community. Had a lot of water, broken pipe water that nobody responded about.
Shout out to Santa Claus Fire Department. My 7-year-old got his letter back.
Oh, wonderful.
Accused me of writing it because there's not a Santa and I was that other fake Santa, not me.
No, that was well attended at both our stations. So I remember seeing your words, so yeah, it's great. Thank you.
So what's the role of the fire department when freezes rupture exterior water containment?
So the fire department has always responded. We call them service calls. So heck, if your water heater breaks and floods your apartment, we'll come out and do mitigation, water extraction, get the water shut off so that doesn't cause more damage and sort of help salvage what can be salvaged. So we do that with broken pipe and fire sprinkler system. If it's specific to a fire sprinkler system, we'll shut the water off to the system. And then we provide instructions to the, especially in multi-family or commercial properties, how to conduct a fire watch appropriately to ensure that they're safe still.
You'll shut residential supplies off?
Yeah, we'll come out and we'll help you find your residential supply. A lot of people don't know where their shut off valves are, and especially when water's flowing out of your cabinets or your ceiling. It's a very disturbing event and people aren't quite sure where to turn to get that water turned off. So we'll come out, find the shut off. Can't find the shut off in the house, but typically can. We have tools to go out and do a street valve shut off also.
Yeah, we had a neighbor that was gone and water was running out the garage.
Yeah. Yeah,
When you realize we could have called you guys and shut the meter off.
we can, yeah, and we can also force entry if that's necessary, but we try to cut as little damage as possible. Absolutely, we have always gone out calling service calls. We'll add you guys to the list for updates next year too, for just the public safety advisory as we get into the freeze area. So, it's always possible this year, but from what I've seen forecasts, I don't think we're gonna get down to really, really low temperatures that create that issue. And really what it is getting below freezing and staying freezing for an extended period of time. I think I've done it. Thank you.
Lakewood, I mean,
All right. We're gonna share screen, so I'll go over a couple things and then I'm gonna go through the fourth quarter report really quickly. So over the holidays, we had our Shop with an Officer event at the Walmart again, the Lakewood Officers Charity Fund that I think 15, 16 families, and then how many? 18. That number stuck in my head. And then we did holiday meals. We served 40 or 50 families from the school district.
Well, Holly knows 150.
Well, there you go. That's why I have you here. Keep me honest. So we have a full holiday meal, turkey, all the fixings and all that stuff. And they come in here and from the school district recommends the families. Hiring status, we are authorized, budgeted for 100, and we have 102 officers. So we are actually one of the few police departments that is overstaffed. And we've been allowed to overhire by 2 to help offset the retirements. And so we're sitting in a pretty good spot. We have, I think, 1 retirement that I know of, and even that's not definite. So but it takes so long. We've got, I think, 6 to 8 officers that are in the training pipeline. So they're in various stages of either out on the street in the PTO program at the academy or getting ready to go to the academy. And ready?
Sorry.
So that yes, about the pursuits and the legislation. So the legislative session is about halfway done. It's a short session this year. It did not touch the pursuits. There was a referendum that got enough signatures to essentially change the law back to where it was before the legislature changed it a couple years ago. And so that being said, the legislature has a couple of options. They can either do nothing, which is what they've chosen to do. They can adopt it as written into law and pass it and send it to the governor, or they can create a competing bill and send both of those to the voters. They've opted to do nothing and send the original referendum to the voters. So, and the last I heard, it was polling at about 77% approval with the public. So hopefully, have to wait till November, obviously the election, but hopefully that will go through. Otherwise, a short session, so not a ton of bills. You did see nothing on the juvenile access to attorneys. We're hoping to get some movement there to where at least the parents could have the decision making. No bill was even introduced on that. And there is one that is moving forward that would eliminate any type of deception during an interrogation. And then there are 2 that are moving forward. One of them creates the authority for the Attorney General to criminally charge officers for use of force and creates an independent office of prosecution with the Attorney General's office. And then there's another one that would allow the Attorney General to sue police departments for pattern and practice. So if there is a pattern and practice of violations of law, similar to what the DOJ does, they've done in a number of cities. The DOJ will sue, do a pattern and practice investigation, and then essentially put restrictions on those departments. And they haven't been really effective. They've been used for a number of years, Oakland, New Orleans, Seattle, and so on. And they haven't been very effective. And so at the state level, we're really trying to avoid that. We'd rather see the money put into training and, support for the police departments rather than suing them on the back end. And interestingly enough, that bill, does not apply to the state controller or Department of Corrections. Okay, so quarterly stats.
We're gonna have to do this differently. This is still video. So, I'm gonna do it just-
I was thinking the PowerPoint.
okay.
I'm just gonna give the highlights. Fortunately, the way the meeting's lined up, we're getting ready to do our presentation of our annual report for 2023 to the city council on Monday. And our standing direction from the city manager, the council gets to see that first. So fortunately, bad timing. However, fourth quarter stats, essentially the whole year. So you'll get some of the information, and Joanna will send out the annual report next week, and we'll have copies here for you if you want to come get them. So I guess I'll just tell you that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I'm not gonna go through all of this. Joanne can send it out to you as well. But you can see this is our calls for service. So the last 3 years, kind of a steady increase. I think that's one population increase. We're up to 63,000 population, and coming out of COVID. So that's that whole trend. 2021 was really when things were opening up, and then stuff is continuing to grow in the last couple of years. People are really getting out and about. Go 2 more slides. 1 more. So crimes against person is all of your that. So aggravated assault, simple assault, homicide, robbery, sex crimes. As you can see, really just going to focus on the year to year. So we've gone from 1,800 down to 1,680. So over the last 2 years, we've dropped 100, and that's a nice downward trend. We'd like to see that. Overall, it's actually fairly good news. Next one. Property crimes. In total, they have trended down. Again, we're looking at the bottom right. So we've gone from 4,800 down to 4,400. The lone exception is vehicle theft, and I'll cover that shortly. Next slide. So this is the pursuit versus the looting. So pursuit is, I guess, a car that we are allowed to legally pursue under the law. And looting is a car that takes off from us and we are not allowed to chase, or we choose not to chase because of safety conditions and so on. We're updating our stats on this. We're one of the only departments in the state that have tracked the eludings. So it gives us a really good data set as we look at this issue. And so a lot of the legislature and blogging groups look at our data a lot because we're the few departments that are collecting it, but really hasn't changed. The blue on the bottom is the pursuits, and right here is where they changed the law. So you can see the number of pursuits hasn't really changed, but the eludings has gone up. It's gone up and down, and then the last quarter it's gone up again. Next slide. Shots fired. So this is any combination of this is anything other than somebody getting hit by a bullet. So somebody shooting a gun and nobody gets hit. We get a lot of these, and it really picked up in like 2018 was when we really started to see a lot more of these, and don't really have a great explanation, but at least the numbers are starting to come down a little bit. Next slide. So this is the exception category within property crimes that did not go down. In fact, it's doubled since 2021, and that's your motor vehicle thefts. So 2021, before the pursuit law and the Kia Boys and the TikTok challenge, we had 657 stolen cars. Last year we had 1,100, so almost double that. Fourth quarter, it did drop fairly significantly from the third quarter. So it did drop at the end of last year. And some of that is, I think we were able to finally arrest and get charged a number of the group of juveniles in Lakewood that were part of that Kia Boys group. And so kind of broke them up a little bit. There's still a lot going on out there, but we're able to make a little bit of an impact. So hopefully we see that trend continue. And that is it on the fourth quarter report. And then the last thing I'll talk about is juvenile crime. We have seen that skyrocket last year, and a lot of it was tied to the vehicle thefts. They're using those in armed robberies and other assaults, and a lot of weapons involved. And so anecdotally, we kind of saw that. And so last May or June, I had a crime analyst pull the stats, and it was ridiculous. I had to pull just known suspects because I wanted to know that they were just juveniles. So it was somebody that this victim knew was a juvenile. So, you know, can't tell the difference between a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old. If you don't know them, we can count those. So it's a very small subset. And I only looked at assaults, robberies, and motor vehicle thefts. And all three of those increased between 200 to 500% over the 5-year average. So huge increase. So I went to the school district and met with the deputy superintendent and the principal of the alternative school. And we convened a kind of a small youth summit. So we had the school district, we had some of our community collaborators, Lakewood's Choice, the youth council, and kind of just pulled the fire alarm. I presented the data. I said, hey, you know, I think we have a problem here. And we started that discussion. We continued that. We have a meeting with our the city human services director, Shannon Bennett. She organizes the community collaborators meeting. So it's a lot of the nonprofits that work in Lakewood. They meet monthly, presented it to them, and then presented to Lakewood's Choice. And then I just followed up this Monday back with the youth council on it. So we're continuing to have that discussion. One of the things from the youth council is the ideas came up, and it's kind of always been an issue, you know, in Lakewood is safe spaces, finding positive activities that youth can engage in, so they're not tempted to go out on the latest TikTok challenge. And I think that is, you know, a piece of that. There's a lot of other factors. Coming out of COVID, there's this whole generation of kids that were, you know, in middle school during COVID or now in high school, and they got completely shoved out from social interaction and completely electronic. And so it's there's a lot of a whole big soup of, I think, different factors that are contributing to that. But we're having that discussion around the city with our stakeholders and trying to find solutions on the front end. You know, if we can just bump some of those kids off that trajectory, we'll be in a much better place. So we're working on that part of it. And that's all I got. Questions? That's a lot. Sorry, ran through that quick. Yes, sir.
Is there anything consistent in the auto thefts that say people that left their motor running got out, or they were Kias and
Kias.
So dominated by that?
Yeah, I forgot it. It's probably 35 to 50%, somewhere in there off the top of my head. So, and if you don't know, they finally did fix it a number of years ago, but a certain range of Kia is about the only manufacturer that didn't put an actual electronic circuit to the ignition that the computer would sense a key. And so all you got to do is pop the metal piece where you stick your key in, and it leaves a little tab that is the exact same size as the inside of a USB cable. And so that's why they just carry a USB cable. They break the window, they break that off with a screwdriver, USB cable, and off they go. And so we're finding them using it as rideshare. They'll steal one, drive it for a while, drop it off, steal another one, and they'll do a crime and a robbery or something. They'll be on their third car by the time we even get to the scene of the robbery. So, and they just become really easy to steal. So there's talk of a class action suit against Kia. Kia did buy thousands of the club from back in the 80s, the big metal thing that you put on. We give out 2,000 of them here. They are all gone. They went quick. So yeah, Kia is what's driving that number.
Have you noticed any change since implementing block
50 cameras? Any decrease in activity or?
Well, I'll tell you from third quarter to fourth quarter, which is about when we activated Flock, we had 100 less stolen cars. So
Trending in the right direction.
trending in the right direction. We're hopeful that it keeps going, and then we'll keep analyzing the data to see, that correlation, and see if that's actually causing an effect. But it has been trending down.
With what a license plate reader cameras that can identify a stolen vehicle and report it
Yeah.
around the city.
So we have 31 cameras installed right now, and yeah, they'll the officer just keep an app open on their computer, and it'll alert them when there's a stolen vehicle.
Is it sensitive enough to get to some of these plates that have been shielded with big bodies, plastic coated shields that they put on the tags?
Yeah, for the most part. There's some, I'm sure it doesn't, uses AI to read the plates, and it pops up with the pictures so the officer can verify. And it's amazing that it can read those. The other cool thing with the Flock is that it keeps those license plates for a month, and so we can go back and search. And you can search not necessarily by license plate. If I have a Toyota pickup truck white with a ladder rack on it, I can put that in, or a Acura with a bumper sticker or rear sticker on the rear windshield. I can put that into the database and it'll search, and it'll pop up every white pickup with a ladder rack that's a Toyota Tacoma. It's very sophisticated technology. It's pretty cool.
What's the nature of the catalytic converter problem? Is that boiling any or still?
Yeah, that's way down, and that tracks exactly along with the price of the metals inside. Those special metals, and you can watch that when those metals go up, catalytic converter that goes up. You go down, they go down. So catalytic converter thefts are down.
Was there any indication that these, whatever they were doing, engraving or telling the potential junkyard that was going to take it, they had to take a lot of information? Does any of that seem to be deterring, or is it all overcome by the price in metals?
I don't know. I don't know how effective those strategies are. I don't know if there's been any studies on those. Kind of depends on how reputable the metal recyclers are. And from what we've seen here, they're not. I mean, they'll take street signs. I mean, that's a city or county street sign. They'll take that. Some of the places, not all of them, but we had one in Lakewood years ago that was pretty bad, but they're no longer in business. They'll shut them down. Yeah.
Another subject, this morning I saw on the Lakewood Life Facebook page, the guy, Robert S. Figures III, wrote a long message on there saying that the most dangerous city in the state of Washington was Fife. And then he gave a list. Number 8 on that list was Lakewood. And he quotes that this is all according to FBI data. No date, just FBI. Can that be at all accurate? Is Lakewood the 8th most dangerous city in the state?
I don't think that is accurate. I don't know.
He doesn't give a date on the FBI data or
Right.
What police, I was wondering if you had any clues about something like that.
Yeah, I don't know where we rank on that. And that's the problem with the social media stuff. It may have been true at some point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You, counsel?
In our latest meetings, we were talking about how to use the opioid settlement funds to help with community things such as what John talking about our safe spaces and how to support them, or how to use some of the money for like mental health towards the youth. That's like a big problem if I can the states today. That's all that I can recall from last meeting, but I'm not sure if they were anything else to add to that.
Caitlin or Dylan, did you want to add anything? Oh, Caitlin says no.
Thank you, Imogen. Okay, unfinished business. Neighborhood Association. Board.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, this is Karen. I went into a chat and I guess wasn't picked up on, but I have a question for Chief Unfred about the Kia stolen vehicles, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do your stats reflect the Kias that have keys or fobs also?
We don't track that.
Okay, so they're grouped together?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Well, this will work for you.
Chris, do you have any more?
Hmm?
Do you have
Oh.
any more copies?
I do. I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so, hi everyone, my name is Chris. Y'all know me, but I'm just gonna say my title again. So I'm the Neighborhood Connections Programs Coordinator. And one of my tasks, that's not officially my task yet until March, but is my task as of, is this neighborhood associations and really getting them back up to what they were. Kind of a little presentation, kind of just going over a little bit of what I've seen, what I recommend, and kind of like a little bit of my plan of how I would go about things, but definitely want feedback and see how you all see things, how you all interact. Y'all know people, so like, let me know if this is on the right track or not. Okay, so kind of going over a little bit, I'm gonna go over kind of like the path of in after neighborhood associations, kind of what's currently happening now, kind of like recommendations, what I've been seeing, and then kind of draft for how I see going forward, how to really get some of these started again and kind of support the ones that are currently going on. So y'all know in the past, neighborhood associations were really aligned with the police districts. And there used to be 5 of them. They were honored by the city. That's in the information in the packets. Pretty much that happened. So the city was able to get some small amount of money to these associations to do some work. One of the kind of big issues with kind of the aligning with the police districts is that you can see they're pretty big. And that's been what you'll see later on in the presentation. That's been kind of an issue, right? There's certain issues that are not being talked about at certain neighborhood associations. They're not really like one side of this area is getting talked about a lot, but the other side is not. And that's been a big issue that I've seen in the current neighborhood associations that are currently active. What's currently happening? So we have 3 that are mainly active, and then we have Springbrook Connections that does monthly Springbrook community meetings. That's not officially a neighborhood association, but they do meet every month. So we have the Tillamook Woodbrook, we have Lake City, and the North Lakewood Neighborhood Association. Tillicum, Woodbrook, and Lake City are pretty consistent. It sounds like the North Lakewood Association kind of just meets when they meet. They kind of do like some meetups, and then they kind of, when a topic arises, they kind of meet up. If I'm wrong about that, let me, but that's kind of what I've seen. And then Springbrook is kind of doing their own kind of community meetings on this. But some of my recommendations, so I would love to have more youth enter kind of some of these meetings. It's been said that a lot of youth want to be more involved, they want to get back to where before COVID, where there was events, they knew their neighbors, they were able to get connected. So I think neighborhood associations are really good to do that, right? And have that youth voice and youth perspective, because they are more leading to more older adults. But I do think there is evidence that we can incorporate more youth to have a youth perspective in these. I also suggest like incorporating more like nonprofits and businesses in those cities. Most of kind of what I've seen is a lot of these meetings kind of go where like, okay, everyone gives their comments, their feedback, and they don't really, that's kind of how the meeting kind of ends. There's no really like, how do we better our community? How do we better our leader? How do we better our neighborhood? Those kind of get left out of the discussion and they kind of stop. If people get good traction and then the meeting ends and it kind of stops. So I think a good thing would be to actually maybe phrase meetings more as topic based or more issue based. So when you go to the meeting, you know what the issue is going to be about. We can now call upon, say, if it's juvenile crime, we can call upon, okay, hey, can you come to our meeting and talk about juvenile crime? Hey, let's bring other people, let's bring some certain nonprofits in that work with you. What can we do on this subject within our neighborhood? Then we get some more ownership. So I think it's leading to that direction might, one, entice people to actually come to the meetings and value for their opinion. And then two, actually really get some work done. Because it seems like a lot of these meetings are like informational, what's great, but I do think a lot of folks do want to be like, I have an opinion, I want it to be said, what can we do to work on it? And I think these neighborhood associations are really big in part to do that, because it all starts at this level. So we can build up from that level. Nonprofits are supposed to be doing work in Lakewood, can actually do work effectively because they know what the community wants. And then at least we're able to know what's wants, right? We all can know what our capacities are and build that. Marketing and social media. So I think a big thing is a lot of these groups have Facebook pages that are great and most of them are really active. I think on the city side, what we can really do is kind of promote those pages a little bit more and actually maybe doing reports out on these meetings, right? You have the Lakewood Connection magazine. I don't see why there'd be an issue to maybe having a regular, sorry, I speak fast, a regular part of actually adding like, hey, the report backs from these neighborhood associations. So what's going on in this side of the neighborhood? What's going on here? What's been happening in these meetings? I think that'd be a really good segment to add to into Lakewood Connections and really bring that up. Into my marketing. Yes, so this is my draft. Please give feedback. And it's also in the packet as well. So you've been able to look at it too. It's printed weird. I'm sorry for that. But it's all there. Okay. So looking at the current neighborhood associations / community meetings, I think a big point would be to speak to the current leadership. I've kind of been doing this on my own, but speaking to the current leadership, what support do they need? What's here? What goals do you identify with? Like what do you want this neighborhood association to be looking like? I've started some of these conversations already. But this is kind of where I'm coming from in the strategy. Really like, what can we do to support you? What's there, right? A lot of these folks who've been doing these neighborhood associations have been doing it for years and they're kind of tired because they're the only person doing it. So I'm here to support that, but I think also it's when I mentioned youth before, really getting youth involved and having them kind of be in some leadership positions here because they're going to be hopefully jumping into that leadership role too in these neighborhood associations. So a lot of my things is asking the goals, what they are, kind of identifying how can we support and build capacity and resources for them. And I really do think leading more topic heavy or going into these meetings and saying, hey, I want to talk about food access. I want to talk about this. And people knowing that's the topic for that month is going to lead people to go and actually go to a neighborhood association. Yes. Okay, I know it's a small read, but it's all in this packet. So kind of these are kind of my step ways how I would actually go and start looking at how to actually start establishing some new neighborhood association. Right now, I'm working with one specific neighbor right now who's in Lake City's neighborhood association, but feels like a lot of the topics that are taught there are mainly focused on a certain part of the neighborhood, but not the other side, right? Not by Lake Silvertown, not talking about these certain subjects. So I'm working with her currently to start a neighborhood association because how big the police districts are don't cover a lot of what her and some other neighbors feel like are coming in that Layout City neighborhood association. So through this plan, a lot of it's like, okay, let's identify smaller areas within these big districts of how we can actually narrow down some of these neighborhood specific issues, right? Communicating that to the community, and then having local neighborhood meetups, right? So have meeting neighbors to come together. Let's talk, let's have some food, let's have more casual conversations of what's going on in our neighborhood, and having that more frequently. So as you have people actually come to these to be more frequent, that's how you start building up that capacity for folks to be like, okay, let's actually start tackling some of these issues and start building that structure of a neighborhood association. Any questions? Any fast? If you know, okay. Right? So after establishing that, I'm also working with Liquid United on this. So working with other nonprofits who do that outreach work is a big thing for me. So Liquid United has agreed to also work with us to actually start this process. So going to doing neighborhood specific type of events to bring people to start talking about these issues in their neighborhood. And hopefully through that, we can start building up an actual central group to start having more structured meetings in these areas that don't have them. That makes sense. And then creating communication, feedback, loops, all this. I know it's a lot, but it all makes sense. It does. It does. And then the last two, I don't want to keep going too long. The last two is really like developing a plan, right, with these neighborhood associations, how to make it long term, what is needed, how do we support that? And then having regular meetings, including social activities. I think a big part of what they do, a lot of them don't have a lot of social activities. Right? Like we want to chill, eat food together, talk together. We're neighbors, we want to have fun too, but also talk about the issues. And I think that's a big part that was missing. Sorry, I didn't want to keep too long, but that's kind of what I have.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
So, there's a lot.
Yes, I have some questions.
You go for it.
Is the city's commitment and the council's commitment financially to make this happen your position? I mean, is that the city's financial commitment, or is there budgets that should make that able to put on advance, or do you see that evolution?
Hopefully, I'm not gonna speak on that because hopefully, hopefully that would be the case. That's what I'm really trying to see more nonprofits to do that right now that do have the funding that need to do community outreach to do that now, because I don't specifically think it's in the budget for the city currently, but I'm hopefully if this is successful, money will be poured into it. But
it's more than just grants.
yes,
We have to give you the resources to be successful,
yeah,
and that is part of that.
yeah.
We just need to understand what that looks like from your recommendations and from community involvement in order to do that. Have you started to look at where these smaller community neighborhood associations may be if we were to redraw the maps?
I have. I do think a lot of it has this thing, community members just talking to me and telling me we need one and this is what needs to be here. And I'm kind of letting that guide it because they're a community member, they should guide it. I'm like the one I'm playing right now with a resident will most likely be hopefully at the Lakewood Pavilion around Fort Silicon Park in that area. So that might be one that's gonna hopefully happen in the next 2 weeks. Hopefully. And I'm trying to see where other areas would be. there, but it's mainly has just been people just coming to me and saying, yes, I need this in my community, we need to have these talks, these conversations. And it might not be necessarily a neighborhood association, but it might just be meetings and community that just come together and start talking about it.
So at a high level, without going into weeds,
Chief.
I'm that neighbor and I say, well, here's what I'm not getting, why I need a subgroup. Or what are they not getting?
So in the example, I feel like depending on where you live, it's like some folks don't know how, like, I think a big thing is people know how to interact with the city, right? A lot of people don't go to city council meetings, people don't go to certain meetings to get informed. But they're very passionate about what's going on in their community. So in their neighborhood. So I think like when they're like, oh, this is what you do with the city, and I'm like out there more than maybe someone else might be out there, they're like, okay, I want to talk to my neighbors about this as an issue. And for me, I'm like, okay, I can set that up. Okay, let's figure out a place, let's talk, let's figure out what issues you're bringing that into, and let's see what comes out of that meeting. Right? Because I can't make a neighborhood association just happen. That has to be the actual neighbors have to do that. So it's just me supporting. Did that answer the question?
Not really.
Not really? Okay.
Kind of what I'm getting at is,
Okay.
I mean, the association should provide something to them. And when I hear there's a big area that feels like it should have sub areas, I have employees like that. Do they feel that way because they can't get along with that area? They feel like they don't want to go in there, or they don't want to be in that area? Or do they have separate issues because the curbs are different or because the trees are different? What makes them want to be in sub area?
Okay.
At least in my experience, north of Lakewood, there's a pretty good diversity in the people there. Originally we started with people around Oakbrook, and it stayed pretty much centered around Oakbrook. They didn't seem to be reaching out for the rest of the area that falls within District 6. Even though we struggled to try to get into. So
So when you say we, you mean the Oakbrook Association, trying to struggle to get them,
well,
other people to be involved.
I live outside Oakbrook,
Okay.
but I'm in the district, and Brady's in the district. And when you go to the meeting, a lot of the issues are focused around Oakbrook and their homeowners associations there. Right now, I don't know where that's at. The last email I got from them, it kind of sounded like they were gonna disband. And that, because the gentleman who was running it just felt like he was just duplicating things that already exist in the city. And I thought, whoa, somebody lost sight of where we're going. Because it used to be really important that we used to meet, and there was a police officer patrolling that area would be there, so there was somebody there that was dealing specifically with that area. We had somebody in the fire department. There was usually quite often somebody from the city would be the city manager, or the councilman or something. And so there was always a lot of information. It really got started over adult family home. That's what really got that association going, because their Oakbrook was really trying to fight it early on. And when that kind of faded out and basically found out what much we could do about it, it kind of lost sight of where we were going. And then they had 2019 hit and couldn't find a place to meet, and so it was just kind of lost in this. Patrick started.
He just got kind of overwhelmed. He got promoted in his fire department. Right. He told me just coming up, there was no one else who was willing to.
They discussed. Come forward. And he ran it about the last year that we had a meeting. When the heck was it in December? I think. And the minutes that came out from that, it kind of was like, well, I'm done doing this, we're just duplicating the stuff that the city's doing, and so we're just spinning our wheels, kind of what I read out of it, and I thought, well, what brought that up? You guys have been to North Lake, North, and it's been pretty active, and
Yeah.
there's usually 25, 30 people there.
Yeah, I thought participation was pretty good with that
Yeah.
one. That one, the Lake City one, the Welcome one, have all been pretty active in the past year that I've been involved. But some of the feedback that I've heard from some of our residents is they don't necessarily know which group they would be a part of. Because the lines aren't always super clear, right? So folks who live on Hipkins, are they part of Lake City? Are they part of North Lakewood? They're not sure. So maybe there's an opportunity at those sort of boundaries to pull people in of similar interests and similar concerns about their community. Okay.
And if you look at the eastern part of Sigmund now, demographics are changing really quickly, because we've got tons of apartments going. And so it's single family homes are probably gonna, in the minority now, we think they're gonna, then it's gonna be pretty close to being. But we've got, yeah, we got 136 units up with 3 Bradley Lake, they just finished a couple small ones, and gonna build a big one in that Y. And there's already a number, and so when you look at that area compared with Oak Brook, which is basically the western part of it, it's quite a bit different.
So lots of opportunity.
Yeah, so like you were speaking on to Lake City, that's what's currently happening, right? There's certain issues that are talked about in that neighborhood association that's not talking about the instant project, or right, and certain neighbors like, I stopped going because they're not, right, it's not important to them. So why I'm working with one of those neighbors right now is because they want to talk about those types of issues. But there are people in Lake City are perfectly fine with the issues that they're talking about there because it's affecting them. So I would, right? So it might be because that is becoming a huge area. Let's have another one where folks are like, okay, we want to talk about the nitty-gritty about what's going on in our neighborhood. I think that's answering your question. I think that's where it's going, where issues are not really talking about families, specifically tackling the specific neighbors that when it comes to issues that are affecting them. And other people are in the same neighborhood association.
So it's finding the right size.
Yeah, I think it's finding the right size and just issues being talked about, or that might be even at Lake City, if that could be balanced, could be another question, but.
And as they get developed, they'll be supported by the city. Staff will be there to listen, and I'm sure police and fire would be happy to whichever associations pop up.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Business public safety survey.
We've had much movement on it since our last meeting. Just reviewing the minutes from the last meeting. One of the things we were looking for was the direction from council with the citizen survey going out. I think that's kind of where it dropped off.
Yeah, I think we're waiting to review that at our retreat at the end of March. But as far as the business survey, I'm not sure where that's at. Process is that. Did we get 10 minutes ago? Was there input from the police department on that? The business safety?
Yeah, the only thing we got from Chief Umbridge was that the chief he was looking for actionable items. And then I believe we had a draft questionnaire that we probably just need to get to you to get to the chief.
Yeah, no worries. Can you remind me who's on that committee?
That was Karen, myself, Alan. Mark, were you on there as well? Were you working with that? No? Oh, just the 3 of us.
And just so that I understand the process, so you're gonna throw those questions at me and throw it to Chief, and you guys will look at them and all that, and then come back and then you'll present them to the group? Or do you want to present them to the group to see if any other questions were thought of, then before you present them?
I'm not sure.
Sorry.
That's a great question.
I don't know, we're kind of stuck here on a hard spot. We need the council to give their idea, and we need to have the chief be able to tell us kind of what he wants, so when I was working on it, that's kind of how we ended up.
Yeah. Well, one of the problems is we could just do another survey, but it would be, it wouldn't really give any actionable items to LTD. And they'd say, okay, yeah, this percentage of people feel insecure, and there's John saying, what am I gonna do about it? Go hold their hands, or, you know, the problem was, how do we prepare a survey of businesses that will be a tool and useful to the police?
You need more qualitative data instead of quantitative, right? You can't say what feels safe or not. It's more, what areas do you want us to focus on? Where do we need?
Yeah,
more help?
we want to provide data that police can work with. And one of the questions was, what was the purpose of the city council? Were they just wanting a survey of businesses on safety issues to show that the city council was listening to them, to provide data to the city council? Or do they want data that's going to be useful to the police? What is the real?
I would say it's actionable data that we can do something with. It's not just in the city council.
That would be the sort of.
Now, what brought the survey along the region was that the dashboard has a bunch of stuff in there that says every 5 years we're supposed to update the data here. And a lot of it hadn't been updated. We brought that up when the council asked us to go over the dashboard and see what we thought. And that was some of the stuff that he says here, this is supposed to be updated every 5 years. It hasn't been updated since 2017. And so so then they said, well, why don't we come up with a survey that we can take and update something. So it was, I don't know, we ended up stepping into a 50-gallon catch-all, or.
Yeah.
So if I can suggest, I think the chief has given his input. I would suggest that, you all have your own independent authority, and given that, I mean, the chief's suggestion is make it actionable, like we discussed, and I would go ahead and draft your questions and go forward. I don't know if the chief can say yea or nay.
So the chief basically said, I don't want you to go ask the business, how is the police department doing? He wants to know, what can the police department do in the future to improve policing from your perspective?
What do you need?
Right, so that was kind of the difference in what we're doing.
Can we resend the questions again, and then you, myself, and Karen can relook at them, retable them, and then maybe present something for the next, to the committee for the next
We
meeting?
do that. We do that.
So I'll put that on the agenda.
At least we could kind of get that stuff forward and get something.
Joanne, were you able to download the questions that the city sent out in the community survey?
I sent everybody the link so they could all go look at it and steal from it, or not steal. From
Because I
it.
took that survey, and,
They cannot.
Plagiarism.
I guess it's to not ask the same question.
yeah, it was a good survey. It was very, pretty comprehensive. I took it and I think it collected a lot of good information.
I thought it was a lot different than the way we were originally. It's not that it was a bad survey. bad. It's
Just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
This is good. This is good.
it's pretty small. It's well good, which is something we tried to not do. We want to do it 10 or 15 questions instead of, I don't know what was in the 40 or 35.
Yeah.
How many people replied to that? Do you know?
I wasn't, sorry, I
Just
wasn't.
general citizens?
Yeah, it was resident stuff, but I'm not sure what volume of responses we got yet, we'll find out.
Put that on, put it on the agenda.
Is that for the April meeting?
Thank you.
And then new business, preview of next meeting, April 3rd.
Yep, and, sorry, let's look at the work plan. I believe, so yeah, this is fund survey, we'll have that on there. There was a possibility that you might have something for the city emergency management plan present in April, maybe you guys have done that.
I'll have to check. I don't know if they will.
Okay, so we may have to bump that, and I think we had in August too. So we've got wiggle room, but if he comes at me, I'll put it on the agenda, if they're not ready, then just say that, go in there. Does that work? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, in worst case, they could do a presentation on the status of the West Pierce Emergency Management Coalition. And talk about, April is right before summer season, heat, wildfire, those kind of things that they've been doing a lot of work on. And so they could talk about that if you want.
No.
Okay, so reports from, community outreach report, and nothing discussion on public safety.
We haven't had, they've had a meeting since the last North Lakewood has. So, no report.
I saw something, is Woodbrook and Telecom subdivided, are they one entity, are they two now?
There's still one.
Is it one? Yeah. Good for them. With one conversation with the private business.
Yeah, I don't think that's, I don't know. Basically. One group that needs it, well, this kind of one.
I feel like I was supposed to give a plug about one of these, and I'm probably gonna get which one. Didn't we hear something about, was it Lake City? That was. I don't remember when, somebody, I was at a meeting, they were saying that, I think it was Lake City that has a really good meeting, and we should be sending somebody to it. Cause that's the only one I'm really seeing that's active that we don't have.
They're very active, they're very good.
Okay, so I was told to put a plug out here that if anybody was able and wanted to attend that it's a great meeting. They've got lots of interaction, lots of good stuff to glean from it if somebody was able to go. So I was told to throw that out there.
I would say both Lake City and Telecom.
Both
Very
good?
active meetings and are very community involved, like you probably.
And we've got somebody for telecom, so
Yeah.
I knew we didn't have anybody for Lake City, so that's the second one on the list. If anybody's able to go.
I think I live in the city
Okay.
area.
I-
So we get the verification. I've seen the notifications go on dates I can't make it. So I can't.
Okay, perfect.
Very good luck.
That's in March.
Okay.
Not February. They change it every other month.
Oh, I should change that. So every other month, is it still 7 PM, second Thursday? Every other.
Every I'll change that. That's the last.
Thank you for telling me.
Okay,
They live stream on Facebook. They do live stream on Facebook.
Oh, all right, well, that's easy.
Yeah, it's second, Thursday. Tonight.
So then tomorrow.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. Oh, sorry. When somebody's comments, I'm apologizing.
Guess we should have.
I think we have.
I don't know.
Which,
There's
a lot of.
I think when I spoke with the chief, it needed to be a little bit more.
Oh, Dylan. That's a really good question.
We've got.